Hi, I'm Daniel from EDELRID. This third OHMEGA video is about regular inspection, signs of wear and tear, and maintenance and servicing of the OHMEGA. All protective equipment must be checked regularly, at least once a year, ideally before and after each use by a competent person to ensure that it is safe and fit for use. That sounds like a lot of hassle, and who is actually a competent person? Watch this video carefully and follow all the advice it contains, and ta-da! Congratulations, you are now the competent person to inspect an OHMEGA. Please note, if you are responsible for OHMEGAs that are in commercial use, for example in mountain schools or in climbing gyms, there are additional requirements beyond the simple inspection, such as documentation, for example. And in this case, I recommend that you complete a full training course to become a PP expert. Before we start inspecting the OHMEGA, here are a few tips on materials. You will need the following equipment to carry out all possible maintenance work. A lubricant, ideally a spray grease. However, standard household machine oil is also suitable. Ensure that the lubricant is acid-free, but this applies to most products. A cloth or a paper towel for wiping. Water and a cloth for drying. In cases of extreme dirt, cleaning spray, degreaser or a chain cleaner. A small plastic brush, preferably a discarded toothbrush, is ideal. If the sling needs to be completely replaced, you will need a replacement sling, you can get it at edelrid.com, ideally a torque wrench with a 4mm hexagon socket or, in an emergency, a 4mm Allen key. But first, you should watch the video to the end and then check the device according to the instructions. Your device may be in perfect conditions and you may not need any materials at all. Let's move on to the inspection. Start with the visual inspection. As the name suggests, this involves taking a very close look at all the components of your device. We start with the LDPE side shells. These are designed to protect the device if it hits the wall, and the right-handed side shell also holds the lock button. These side shells will become scratched and rough over time, which is fine. However, the shells should be firmly attached and free of cracks or breaks, and no parts should be broken off or damaged to such an extent that they impair the function of the device. Next, the opening button. Again, a few scratches are not a problem. However, if cracks are visible or the button is otherwise damaged, the device should not longer be used. Pay particular attention to sharp burrs that may have formed when the device hit the rock with the button. You could injure yourself on such burrs when operating the button. Next, the side flanges. Check the surface and edges visually and with your fingers. Again, there should be no burrs that could damage a rope or hurt your fingers. In highly corrosive environments, corrosion may occur in the screws, which can be remedied and prevented by regular cleaning and a light application of oil. Next, the pulley. The pulley is made of aluminium, and corrosion may develop under certain climatic conditions. If the corrosion cannot be removed by cleaning, the device should no longer be used. Burrs or other damage to the pulley should also result in the device being discarded. The clamping lever. Check the surface at the lower end visually and with your fingers for burrs or other damage, especially at the front radius of the cam where it touches the rope. What you can see here is not a damage, this is the injection point due to the production of the item. It is at the very bottom of the cam and will not get in touch with the rope. At the upper end, you must check that the screw head is still flush with the side of the lever and that the screw does not wobble. If the screw has loosened, you can find out how to tighten it correctly again in the chapter Sling and Sling Replacement at the end of this video. If you are unsure about assessing possible damage, please get in contact with our service via our contact form on edelrid.de, preferably with pictures of the defect. The sling. Since the visual and functional checks for this sling are the same, I cover the full sling topic in the chapter Sling and Sling Replacement. After the visual inspection, we move on to the mechanical or functional inspection. Here, too, we work on each component individually. Number 1. The closure. Test whether the OHMEGA can be opened with slight resistance when the opening button is pressed. The closure should be smooth enough that the device can be opened, loaded and closed with one hand. Abrasion or force can change the tolerances between the components or the geometry of the components. A device that can be opened without pressing the button must not be used any further, as the rope could become unclipped from the device unintentionally. A device that is very difficult to open should first be cleaned with water, dried and then oiled. To lubricate the opening mechanism and make it easier to operate, the lubricant can be applied under the push button. The ramp of the push button and the axle head can be rubbed with a slightly oily cloth. Repeated opening and closing will break in the sliding surfaces. If the device still cannot be opened or is very difficult to open, you should not continue to use it. Please contact EDELRID with the problem. Number 2. The rope pulley. Check that the pulley can be turned smoothly and without resistance, but at the same time is not worn out. To do this, open the device and move the pulley up and down and side to side with your fingers on the axle. A slight amount of play is normal, but if the play is significantly greater than 1 mm, the pulley has exceeded its service life and the device should be replaced. Next, carefully turn the pulley a full turn with your fingers. If the pulley is stiff or does not turn smoothly, you can try cleaning and lubricating the pulley bearing. First, rinse the device in warm water with a little washing up liquid. If possible, you can use an old toothbrush to remove coarse dirt. Then dry the device with a cloth and leave it to dry for 1 or 2 hours. You can then lubricate the pulley bearing, and in this case a low viscosity, which means a rather liquid lubricant such as oil or Teflon spray is best because it penetrates the bearings well. Apply the lubricant to the open side of the pulley and between the pulley and the side flange. By tilting and turning the device, you can help the lubricant to penetrate all areas. Then wipe off any excess lubricant with a paper towel. If the pulley still does not turn completely smoothly, it may be that old lubricant has become resinous in the bearings. In this case, you can resort to more drastic measures and degrease the bearings first. Commercially available chain cleaners from bicycle shops or professional degreaser sprays can be used for this purpose. Caution! Some of these cleaners are very aggressive. Before cleaning with degreasers, the sling should be removed to prevent chemical damage to the textile. Instructions for removing the sling can be found in the chapter Sling and Sling Replacement. Furthermore, you should read the safety instructions on the degreaser. In most cases, work in a well-ventilated room under a fume hood or outdoors, wear gloves and the safety goggles, and work over a cloth to catch any excess cleaner. Now spray the degreaser on the areas where the lubricant is to be applied. Wipe off any excess cleaner with a paper towel and leave the device to dry for a while. Then lubricate the bearing again, as described above. A pulley that turns irregularly can repeatedly activate the device unintentionally. A pulley that does not turn at all can cause excessive friction in the system and prevent the climber from being lowered. If your maintenance measures are unsuccessful, please get in contact with our service via our contact form. Number 3. The clamping lever. Now check whether the clamping lever or cam can be moved. The cam is preloaded against the spring and may be a little stiff, but should snap back cleanly into its locked position when released. If you're not 100% sure about the function of the cam, you should use another device for comparison, perhaps one owned by a friend or one you can try out at your sports shop. If the cam is too stiff, the device will not activate or will activate too late. In these cases, as with the pulley, you can try cleaning and lubricating the cam's bearing. The same recommendations apply as for the pulley. First clean with water, dry, then lubricate. If that doesn't help, remove the sling, degrease, dry and lubricate. If cleaning and lubricating does not solve the problem, the device is probably mechanically damaged. In this case, please get in contact with our service via our contact form. A cam that moves too easily has lost spring tension, and a cam that moves without any resistance probably has a broken spring. In both cases, the device would always activate too early. In such cases, please contact the EDELRID service, but the device has probably exceeded its service life. Number 4. Sling and Sling Replacement. The sling is the main wear part of the OHMEGA. All other components are made of metal and plastics, while the sling is made of high-strength HMPE and is much more exposed to abrasion and wear than the other components. Because textiles age even when they're not in use, the sling has a maximum service life, regardless of how often it is used. This is a maximum of 14 years in total, divided into 4 years of storage and a maximum of 10 years of usage. The period of use begins on the day of first use and ends after 10 years, but no later than 14 years after the date of manufacture, which can be found on the underside of the pull tab with the blue plus. To ensure that the OHMEGA device can continue to be used even after the end of the sling's service life or when the sling is worn, the OHMEGA sling is available as a spare part at EDELRID.com or your local retailer and can be replaced by any user. In what is now the second generation, we have developed a sling that has been significantly optimized against wear and tear thanks to a coating at the rope contact points. A few words about the abrasion resistance of the slings. We have worn slings over several 100,000 meters of rope travel. After about 100,000 meters, a polished surface forms at the rope contact point, but this does not yet represent any reduction in strength. After that, we were unable to produce any further wear. We therefore rubbed the slings with round files. These slings still had a strength of more than 15 kN, which is the structural strength of the device. Nevertheless, check your slings regularly over their entire circumference, inside and out. Open seams, very heavy pilling or damaged webbing edges, cuts, abrasion, obvious burns or exceeding the maximum service life are clear reasons for discarding the sling. If such signs of wear are visible on the sling of your device, get yourself a replacement sling and replace the sling as follows. Use a 4mm Allen key to open the bolt screw and remove it completely. You can then use the screw to push the hollow bolt out in the other direction and remove the sling from the device. You should cut up and dispose of the old replaced sling. If you have decided that the sling is no longer sufficiently safe, it should not accidentally end up back in use by less cautious users. Fold the new sling flat so that the blue pull tab is approximately in the middle at the top of the sling and the pull tab is facing to the back of the device, which means away from the pulley. Push the folded sling under the small metal bar between the flanges until the front edge of the pull tab is flush with the metal bar. Then press the front of the sling with your fingers to form a loop and push the hollow bolt through the press sling loop from either side. Please note, the bolt and hole are not completely round, so the bolt only fits through the holes in one position. If the bolt jams against the sling, you can pull the sling apart at the top and bottom to create the necessary space for the bolt, or screw the screw a few turns deep into the bolt and guide it through the opening with the help of the screw. Each replacement sling comes with a replacement screw. The reason for this is that the screw has a screw locking compound, a type of adhesive which is designed to prevent the screw from loosening during use. Therefore, when replacing the sling, you should also replace the screw. If you have your own thread locker adhesive, please note that only a medium strength version is suitable here. You can also apply this to the old screw and screw it back in. Screw the screw into the device as far as it will go. The screw should be tightened to a torque of 6 Nm, so ideally you should use a torque wrench with a 4mm hexagon socket bit. Set it to 6 Nm and tighten the screw until the wrench clicks. If you do not have a torque wrench, you can also tighten the screw to 6 Nm with a simple Allen key. Thanks to the screw lock and the long thread, this screw connection also accepts a larger torque tolerance. Please note, 6 Nm corresponds to a tightening weight of 6 kg on a 10 cm long lever. If you discover a screw on your device during the visual inspection that has loosened during use, we recommend that you remove the screw and either apply a screw locking compound yourself or order a replacement sling with a replacement screw and reinsert the new or newly secured screw as described. Congratulations! You have made it to the end and can now consider yourself a competent person for inspecting and maintaining the OHMEGA.